square transforms under lantern glow, strings of paper lights swaying overhead like constellations brought to earth, each one painted with wishes, with hopes, with prayers for prosperity and love, and all the dreams that humans carry in their hearts. The warm light softens hard urban edges, turns ordinary streets into magical pathways, creates atmosphere where celebration becomes sacred, where community becomes communion, where strangers might discover they were always meant to meet. Music drifts from multiple sources, traditional instruments blending with modern melodies, live bands alternating with recorded songs, creating a layered soundtrack that speaks to the festival's dual nature, preservation of ancient tradition and celebration of contemporary life. The rhythm encourages movement, encourages dancing, encourages the kind of physical joy that connects body to community, individual to collective celebration, present moment to centuries of similar gatherings, where people came together to mark seasons, to honor light's triumph over darkness, to affirm that beauty and connection matter as much as survival, as much as all the serious business that usually dominates human attention. Food vendors create a sensory symphony, sizzling oil and roasting meats, sweet candied fruits and fresh dough frying. Each stall offers its own aromatic signature, its own contribution to the complex perfume that marks festivals, that triggers memory, that connects present celebration to all the festivals that came before in this place, in this culture, in the long human tradition of gathering together to eat, to share, to create abundance that individuals alone could never achieve. The food represents more than sustenance, represents generosity, represents the way communities care for themselves through ensuring everyone can participate, everyone can taste sweetness, everyone can experience the particular satisfaction that comes from festival eating, from special foods that mark special occasions, from treats that exist outside ordinary daily life, to celebrate, to indulge, to acknowledge that joy matters, that pleasure has value, that communities thrive when they make space for celebration alongside work. She moves through the crowd with the photographer's attention, camera poised but not intrusive, seeking moments rather than manufacturing them. The way she observes demonstrates respect for her subjects, demonstrates understanding that the best images emerge from genuine moments rather than posed artificiality. Her lens seeks laughter, seeks connection, seeks the particular beauty that appears when people allow themselves full presence, full engagement with celebration, full permission to experience joy without self-consciousness, without the usual social defenses that prevent authentic expression. The camera itself becomes an extension of her seeing, a tool that focuses attention, understanding that time passes, that moments die, that preservation through image making represents one way humans cope with impermanence, with the way everything beautiful eventually fades, unless captured, remembered, transmitted to the future through story, through art, through careful attention that says this mattered, this was worth preserving, this beauty deserves to outlast the moment that produced it. She navigates the festival crowd with practiced ease, someone comfortable in public spaces, comfortable with humanity in its collective forms. The camera grants her permission to observe, to remain slightly apart, even while participating, to maintain the stance of witness that allows both engagement and detachment, both celebration and documentation, both experiencing and preserving experience for later reflection. The dual role suits her, allows her to be both of the festival and apart from it, both present and keeping a record of presence, connecting this year's gathering to all previous years, this moment's participants to all who came before and all who will come after. His approach to the festival differs, less about documentation and more about direct experience, less about preserving moments and more about inhabiting them fully. The dumplings he carries represent practical engagement with celebration, represent appetite satisfied through festival offerings, represent the particular pleasure of eating foods tied to tradition, to community, to the culinary heritage that connects individuals to all the generations who prepared and ate these same foods in their own time. When the crowd jostles him, when his bag tips, when a dumpling escapes toward Maya's feet, the accident creates opportunity, creates a moment that neither planned but both will remember, creates the kind of chance encounter that festivals enable through density, through proximity, through the way celebration breaks down normal social barriers, the careful distances, the protective strategies that usually prevent strangers from making contact, from beginning conversations that might lead somewhere unexpected, somewhere significant, somewhere that changes lives in ways that planned encounters rarely achieve. His immediate apology, his laughter at the absurdity of the situation, reveals character, reveals someone who can find humor in small disasters, who doesn't allow embarrassment to prevent connection, who possesses the grace that allows mistakes to become beginnings rather than endings. His work restoring old instruments suggests appreciation for preservation, for repair, for the patient attention required to honor what has been damaged, to return it to function, to maintain connection between present and past through objects that carry history, that embody craft, words that make life worth living beyond mere survival. When their eyes meet over the dropped dumpling, when laughter flows easily between them, when the smile lingers beyond polite acknowledgement, something shifts, something begins. Maya's comment about the photogenic nature of the dumpling reveals her habitual lens on the world, her tendency to see everything as potential image, as potential beauty worth capturing. Alex's self-deprecating response about legacy demonstrates humility, demonstrates capacity for perspective, demonstrates the kind of humor that makes easy companions, that creates comfort rather than competition, that allows people to relax into authentic interaction rather than performing competence, protecting ego at the expense of genuine connection. The smile that passes between them carries more than amusement, carries recognition of compatibility, carries the first spark of attraction that neither has yet named but both already feel. The festival atmosphere supports this rapid connection, creates permission for accelerated intimacy, creates a context where strangers might become friends, friends might become something more, all within hours rather than the weeks or months such progression usually requires in ordinary circumstances. The celebration creates a suspension of normal rules, creates temporary world where possibility expands, where courage comes easier, where risk feels worthwhile, because the entire environment celebrates connection, celebrates the human capacity for joy that only comes through willingness to be vulnerable, to be seen, to allow others close enough to matter. Maya's gesture toward her small table represents generosity, represents willingness to share a limited resource, represents openness to extending what began as accident into deliberate companionship. Her humorous condition about appearing in photographs acknowledges her photographer's habit while creating a playful frame for sharing space, for beginning to know each other, for discovering whether accident might become intention, whether chance might become choice, whether two strangers might discover they're compatible enough to pursue connection beyond this single evening, beyond this festival setting, beyond the temporary permission that celebration grants. Alex's joke about modeling fees matches her playfulness, demonstrates compatible communication style, demonstrates capacity for the kind of gentle humor that makes strangers feel comfortable, that creates ease rather than awkwardness in new relationships. They settle into shared space naturally, without forced conversation, without social strain, discovering that silence between them feels comfortable, rather than requiring constant verbal filling. That comfortable silence suggests compatibility, suggests people whose rhythms match, whose energy levels align, whose natural styles allow them to simply be together without constant performance. Constant proof that interaction remains as they share dumplings, as they trade stories between bites. Layers accumulate. His work restoring instruments reveals patience, reveals appreciation for beauty preserved through care. Her photography reveals similar dedication, similar commitment to capturing what time threatens to erase. The parallel becomes clear. Both dedicate themselves to fighting impermanence, to ensuring that beauty survives the passage of time that destroys everything unless humans work to preserve, to honor what proves too precious, to allow simple disappearance without record. Despite the crowd, despite the noise, despite constant movement and music and all the sensory intensity that festivals create, the space around their table begins to feel separate, begins to feel like a pocket of privacy within public celebration. The festival continues its energy around them, but their attention focuses inward, focuses on each other, focuses on discovering compatibility that the first accident suggested, and conversation confirms. They discover shared values, shared appreciations, shared approaches to beauty and preservation, and the work of honoring what matters, what endures, what connects humans across time through tradition, through art, through the accumulated expressions of care that emerge when people prioritize meaning over mere efficiency, joy over mere productivity, beauty over mere utility. Hours pass without notice, without checking phones, without awareness of time's passage beyond the immediate present they share. This suspension of temporal awareness marks successful connection, marks absorption in interaction rich enough to make time irrelevant, important enough to deserve undivided attention. The festival provides perfect context, provides excuse to remain together, provides reason to extend contact through multiple activities, multiple opportunities to discover whether initial spark can sustain, can deepen, can develop into something worth pursuing beyond tonight's celebration, into ordinary life, where relationships must prove themselves through sustained attention, through deliberate choice, through commitment that renews itself daily rather than relying on special circumstances to maintain momentum. As evening deepens, as the main event approaches, they join the migration toward the riverbank, where paper lanterns wait, where ancient tradition continues its annual cycle, where individual wishes join collective hope in physical form that rises toward sky, toward whatever divine or cosmic forces might receive such offerings. The ritual connects them to centuries of similar offerings, to all who stood at this river in years past, to all who will stand here in years to come, creating a temporal community that extends far beyond side by side feels natural, feels right, feels like continuation of the evening's progression from accident to intention, from chance to choice. The lantern they share becomes simple, becomes their combined offering, becomes the physical representation of whatever they hope might develop between them. The question about wishes opens space for vulnerability, for revealing desires, for acknowledging longing. But Alex's response about secrets protects privacy while maintaining playfulness, maintains the dance between revelation and restraint that characterizes early romantic exploration. Maya's suggestion to write wishes instead honors his privacy while ensuring participation, while creating a physical record that both will see, that both contribute to, that becomes their shared creation rather than separate individual offerings. Bending over the lantern together, shoulders touching, creates physical intimacy, creates proximity that heightens awareness of each other's presence. Each breath, each small movement registers with heightened sensitivity. Their laughter mixes with surrounding voices but feels separate, feels private, feels like their own conversation continues even within the crowd, even surrounded by hundreds of other participants. The ink bleeding into paper creates a visual representation of how their stories, their hopes, their wishes begin to merge, begin to blend, begin to become not two separate offerings, but one combined prayer for whatever future might hold, whatever possibilities might unfold, if both choose to pursue connection beyond tonight. The moment of release carries significance beyond practical action, carries symbolic weight, carries emotional resonance that transforms simple gesture into meaningful ritual. Holding the lantern together, preparing to release it, creates shared responsibility, creates a moment that requires coordination, requires synchronization, requires trust that both will let go at the same moment, that neither will hold on too long, that their combined release will allow the lantern to rise smoothly, to join the others floating skyward, to become part of the collective offering that fills the night sky with golden light. Their readiness question, their mutual agreement to release, demonstrates compatible decision-making, demonstrates ability to coordinate action, demonstrates trust building between them. The release itself feels significant, feels like practice for larger letting go, for willingness to risk, to trust, to allow relationship to develop according to its own logic, rather than trying to control, to force, to predetermine outcomes that can only emerge through mutual exploration, mutual vulnerability, mutual commitment to discovering what they might create together if both remain willing, both someone who sees the world similarly enough to enable deep understanding, deep appreciation, deep commitment to mutual flourishing. The lantern becomes them, their hope, their wish floating upward toward whatever powers might bless such beginnings, might support the fragile new growth of relationship that emerged through the evening's progression from accident to this moment of shared ritual, shared hope, shared intention to discover what might develop if both choose to continue, to explore, to invest in possibility that the festival has revealed, but only sustained attention can develop into lasting partnership. When the lantern disappears into collective glow, when it becomes impossible to distinguish their offering from hundreds of others, their attention naturally shifts, naturally returns to each other, naturally acknowledges that the ritual has concluded, and what remains is them, their connection, their decision about whether festival encounter ends here or continues beyond. The crowd's celebration provides cover, provides noise that creates privacy within public space. The moment crystallizes, becomes a decision point, becomes a threshold that must be crossed intentionally rather than accidentally, that requires acknowledging attraction, requires naming desire, requires the courage to express interest explicitly, rather than allowing it to remain subtext, suggestion, possibility that neither claims. The lantern glow washing their faces creates perfect lighting, creates romantic atmosphere that encourages vulnerability, encourages honesty, encourages the particular courage required to risk rejection by making interest explicit, by crossing the boundary from friendly connection to romantic invitation. Maya feels the warmth of his hand still present, even though contact ended with the release. Muscle memory, preserving sensation. Nervous system maintaining awareness of touch that carried charge of attraction seeking outlet, seeking permission to develop into something more deliberate, more conscious, more fully acknowledged. Alex sees light reflected in her eyes and recognizes beauty, recognizes appeal that goes beyond physical attraction into territory of soul recognition, of sensing a compatible spirit, of discovering someone who might understand him, might appreciate him not despite his quirks but because of them, might see his restoration work as valuable contribution rather than obscure hobby, might value what he values, might create with him the kind of partnership that enhances both individuals while creating a shared life more satisfying than either could achieve alone. The hush that falls between them creates space, creates permission, creates the particular quiet that precedes significant moments, significant choices, significant actions that will be remembered regardless of what follows. His lean toward her carries all carries respect for her autonomy, carries understanding that a kiss must be mutual choice rather than advance assumed welcome. His slowness allows time for refusal, time for retreat, time for reconsidering if doubt prevails, if caution reasserts itself before desire completes its work. When she tilts her head, when her smile emerges, when her body angles toward his rather than away, all the permission he needs appears. All the invitation he requires manifests. The kiss, when it comes, carries sweetness of candied fruit still lingering, carries warmth of lantern light, carries all the hope and promise that festival celebrates, that ritual honors, that humans perpetually seek despite disappointment, despite risk, despite all the ways that love can fail when people prove incompatible, or circumstances prove insurmountable, or timing proves wrong, despite right people finding each other. Her hand on his cheek, his hand drawing her closer, creates circuit of connection, creates mutual embrace that demonstrates equal participation, equal desire, equal investment in this moment, in this kiss, in whatever might follow, if both choose to continue beyond tonight, beyond festival's temporary permission structure, into ordinary life where relationships prove themselves through sustained attention rather than special circumstances. The deepening of kiss suggests willingness to explore further, suggests confidence that physical chemistry matches intellectual compatibility, suggests hope that what began as accident might develop through intention into lasting partnership built on accumulated choices, accumulated experiences, accumulated evidence of compatibility that initial sparks suggested, but only time can confirm. The separation comes slowly, reluctantly, accompanied by recognition that moment has been perfect, that memory has been created, that regardless of what follows, they will both remember this, will both treasure this, will both carry this evening as evidence that magic exists, that serendipity operates, that sometimes universe conspires to bring together people who might not otherwise meet, who might pass each other daily without recognition, who might miss entirely the possibility that festival crowd and dropped dumpling and shared